Hey everybody, welcome. It is Friday, June 17th, 2022. Hope you all had a great week. Thank you for joining me. It's Father's Day weekend, so I think we need to do a shout out for all the dads out there. And like I shared in May for Mother's Day, that there may be some very special men out there that don't fit into the box of just being a father. But please, if they're an uncle, brother, mentor, just a good guy, they're involved in children's lives, they've been good for you, please think of those men that in your life that fit into that and wish them a happy Father's Day. They're very important to our lives and the world, and just because it's not a father like we think of, they may have a huge impact in others' lives. So remember them in your lives this weekend. I am Mona with Journey of Purpose Life Coaching, and in the month of June, I'm just going to put a little reminder, I've been working at Seasons and Reasons through my videos, and what that is about is sharing more about my personal life, my seasons, maybe reasons for those seasons, how they have formed what I am today, and how it's helped me go into coaching and why maybe I've chosen coaching. I think it's found my purpose. But today, I wanted to discuss the fact or the process or the experience of caring for aging parents. Now, in some families, it may be an aunt and uncle, grandparents, different families, different dynamics, but in general, they always talk about aging parents and helping them. And I was trying to think of another word for that, and it came to mind that during my season of caring for my mother, I came upon the term of the sandwich generation. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of that. I had never heard of that at the time, and last night as I was thinking about what I was going to share with you guys today, the sandwich generation came to mind. So in simple terms, basically they say it happens between 30 and maybe 50. Once again, age is not relevant because we all have different circumstances, but in my case, I will use me as the example. I was in my late 30s. My kidneys failure had processed. I had a second and fourth graders I've shared, but my mom also started needing help. So if you like ham and cheese sandwiches, Mona was the ham and cheese, and one slice of bread was my family, my children under my roof, and then caring for the aging mom. So that's how it became the sandwich generation. And there's many things to that topic, tons of information out there, and I could go on for an hour or so to share, but I'm just trying to keep this to a short video to introduce to you, share some insight about that. And if you have further questions, reach out to me and I can answer them in person, on a live, however. But with that comes and I even can say that even if you don't have children and a husband, or it's just you and your husband or spouse or whatever it is, but the children aren't in the home, caregiver is another word because you still may be caregiving for that parent, and it's similar situations. There's stresses that may be physical, emotional, maybe spiritual, financial. There are so many things around the sandwich generation, or even later on in life when you become the caregiver of an aging parent. The roles kind of reverse. Now you're kind of the parent and they're not, but they are. And in my case, I did not come from a good childhood. It was very toxic. I won't go into a lot of detail, but it just was not a good relationship. And so when the time came that I had to take care of my mother, a lot of her behaviors continued that were not good, were not positive, probably abusive. I'll say abusive, toxic. So I myself at that time had to start setting boundaries that were healthy. I made sure she was taken care of, but I also had to look at myself and what was healthy for me and my family. And like I've shared with a lot of you, that once you start to set boundaries, it's good for you, but the people you're setting them with may not be so happy with you. And that just means that they need to learn how to deal with it, or you stick to your guns until reality becomes reality for them. But when you're helping care for that parent, that brings in a ton of emotions when you have to do that at the same time. With that being said, even if you have a great relationship with your parents, it still brings on a whole new set of feelings, because if you're remembering the good times, but you're seeing maybe how they are degenerating and decisions you have to make that maybe you've never thought about having to make before. And that may be putting them somewhere to be cared for. Some people choose to move them into their own homes. Financial might be an issue, it might not. And especially if you're in that sandwich generation when you still have your kids under your roof. That puts it into a whole new term. You're having other people to think about and consider. And it can be very hard decisions. I had the opportunity to chat with a friend, and she is a single woman in her 50s, and her mom, she relocated her from out of state into her home, but the time has come she needs to put her into an adult family home. And financial, you may start off with lots of money, but her mom's run through that money, and there's decisions to be made how to pay for the adult family home now, and continue on the rest of her life. And it was very interesting because there's people that she had looked for or looked up to that thought they would help her, and they just were not providing help. I was able to share my experience, share my knowledge, and share what I had gone through with my mom. And sure enough, that led her to a place that we found someone to take her hand, walk her side by side along the process to make sure her mom wouldn't have to move out of her current home and would still have the loving care of the adult family home, even though she was going from private pay to having to have funding from the state. And those are big things, you don't think about those things. And so as I think of that process, I just want you all to know that I think at one point, maybe all of us are probably going to have to experience a part of it. I have other friends who don't have parents anymore, but they have aunts and uncles, down the line, similar things. And I just want you to know you're not alone when that time comes. It is definitely a season. I've had the season, and I guess we could say the reason is aging parents and, whether they chose to take care of themselves the best they could. We could go into that whole dynamic of why that is. So I hope this has given you a little insight, has let you know that if you have any questions, that there's guidance, there's services, there's resources, and I would be more than happy to share those with you. It's hard for me to share everything depending on the individual of what you need, but I'm here. If you know somebody, have questions, maybe it's for you. And maybe it's not happening right now, but you see it coming down the line, right? We all know that might happen. And I think it helps too, I look at it that the knowledge I have now, my kids have seen me, they were younger, but, she passed away only about 4 years ago, so they were older when she did pass. They saw the things that I did do and went through to help that situation, and that when the time comes, they could maybe use that for me if that is something that needs to be done. I'm hoping not, right? We all try to plan ahead and not have that happen. But in the box below, I'm curious, has anybody else had this season? Have you had to care for an elderly, I'm going to say family member? Do you feel like you're in the sandwich generation? How do you deal with that? How have you dealt with it? And maybe you haven't yet and you're planning ahead. How do you see yourself dealing with that? So in the box below, if you don't mind sharing, I always say I love to hear other people's stories and see where they're coming from and what they've learned and what they want to learn. So once again, thank you for joining me. Here's to the sandwich generation. Have a great weekend. Happy Father's Day, and I will see you on Monday. Enjoy the journey, be empowered, live on purpose. Thank you. Bye-bye.